You're listening to Why Germany podcast, the best place for relocation stories and expert tips, sponsored by Over the Offek, relocation agency to Germany, with your host, Eden Levine.
Hello everyone and welcome back to Why Germany. With me is Brittney. Hi.
Hello.
And I'm Eden Levine, and today we're again going to talk about a relocation story, and a very, very interesting one, I guarantee you. But we are going to start with why Germany, Brittney?
Well, I got divorced in America, met a German guy, and thought, why not move to Europe? So here I am. Sometimes I wish he was Italian or Spanish, but I'm still in Germany, so it's okay. Yeah.
I love it. Okay. So, Brittney, I want you to take us as far back as you need for us to understand fully your story of relocating to Germany.
Like I said, obviously I got divorced in America and just didn't know what to do with my life. I had moved a little outside of my city to a little beach town, and this group of Germans just showed up. And I'm a interesting, open person, and we're in America, so we're on my stomping grounds, So I heard their accents and just assumed they spoke English, of course. That's what all Americans do. So yeah, we just started chatting, and with Tobias, which is very German, I kept thinking Tobias, like I'm the Arrested Development, but it is Tobias over here, okay? And very different personalities. But we played pool. I taught them some square dancing with Copperhead Road on the jukebox. So it ended up being a great night, but didn't think much of it. We kept texting a little bit. It was interesting. But then I had moved to California, was starting a new life. But we just kept talking and went over here to come visit for 2 weeks over Christmas. And of course, who doesn't love Germany for the Weihnachtsmarkt? So I fell in love, even though I'm from sunny Southern California. It's freezing here. I had to buy winter clothes, absolutely, because I was in Texas and in California. But yeah, I just fell in love with being in Europe and thought, why not? So I made the big move. So it was more for personal reasons, not a job. So I did all of my research and just getting the visas to get over here, whether it was something like the job seeker visa or the Sprachkurs visa, the language learning visas. So I just kind of came over here more on that. So yeah, came over here not really knowing much, but I always had passive income, so I knew that was going to help. So I moved in with a boyfriend immediately, and it worked really well in the beginning. We did a lot of vacations because here in Europe, you get 30 days. How fancy, In America, you get maybe 10 is kind of the standard. So we went on all kinds of beautiful trips through Europe. His friends were great in the beginning, when I was first fitting in here in Germany. And they did feel, they did care that I was brand new here. So they did try to make me feel welcome, even though it didn't end up long run working out. I will say they tried, and then I tried learning German too, and it was just so difficult. So that was my problem too with a lot of the Germans here, is that I also have been really nervous about learning German. And I've had a lot of angst, and it was fun in the beginning for a little bit, and then you just sort of plateau. And then you start realizing, okay, well, what I'm learning now, there's so many layers upon this German that we haven't even begun to read a book yet because we don't even know the real German yet. These are just the beginner steps. So that got really difficult. And then being American, Englanders, Australians, we are a little naive, a little ignorant, that you can just come and speak English everywhere. I really didn't think that about Spain or Italy, but I did think it about Germany and Norway and Sweden. Netherlands, yeah, I thought about it there too. But yeah, so it's just kind of been a work in progress. So I guess just keep going. I'm just gonna
as much as you need.
Yeah, well, I ended up getting a great part-time job with some other American friends because the easiest job to get is like this native English. If you're not an EU citizen, they kind of have to prove why they're going to choose you over an EU citizen. So the easiest visa is to be teaching your native language. So I ended up teaching English after school, mini job that turned into self-standish. But it just wasn't enough money. And I was teaching kids. So that was fun. But then the pandemic happened. And here we are teaching online classes to a bunch of 3-year-olds and up. And it's really, it's not so, and then if we're getting to the pandemic, this is when me and the German boyfriend, the great thing is, because everything was closed off, all the borders, I would have never seen so much of Germany. So through the pandemic, I ended up seeing a lot more of Germany than I ever intended, because you could go sometimes from city to city. And I never would have gone up to Denmark and Sweden so quickly, but they had their open borders. So I'm like the American here hanging out in Europe at the pandemic, everyone's fighting in America. And then I also had a permanent temporary residence here, citizenship in America. So it was locked down here, and I flew home to America for 3 weeks, and nothing was locked down. Everyone was partying. Nobody was wearing a mask. The pandemic was a crazy time, but I'm glad to have been here and not in America, for sure.
I believe you. Jeez. Wow. I promise that it's going to be an interesting story. And I think we just touched the tip of the iceberg there. But yeah, I want to take you further back, because you did not mention that you're a Marine Corps, which I find super interesting. Could you tell me a little bit about this?
Yeah, so I served in the United States Marine Corps from 2008 to the end of 2012. So it ended up being almost 5 years. I ended up getting a great MOS, military occupational specialty, in Intel. So that was really cool. I got the Marines. They're riflemen first. None of the other militaries say that. They kind of do your job first and then the weapons. But Marine Corps is riflemen first. So I got to do all the gung-ho, going to the mock villages with my rifle, with all the gear, jumping over walls. But then I was also Intel. So I got to be in my air-conditioned tent on deployment, hanging out with the commanding officer, not even saluting him. Just like, hey, bro, how's it going? Not that bad, not that crazy. But it really was, And then I would go in smoke pits outside, and everyone's filling sandbags and sweating their butts off. And I'm like, damn, it's hot out here, you guys. Oof. I'm going to go back inside, yeah. Because we always talk crap to each other, it's the military. But that was cool, yeah. And I was in Okinawa, Japan for 2 years with that. And we did training in Thailand and the Philippines. So I do love me my Asian brothers and sisters, especially up in Düsseldorf. Yeah, that's where they mostly are. Yeah.
And how do you come about to even think about going there? It's not that usual, right? Or is it maybe?
Especially for women, it's really, and for men, it really isn't. No. Honestly, I was always pretty smart, but my childhood wasn't always structured the best. So I had a little bit of troubles in my early 20s of, I had a lot of scholarship to go play soccer in university and schooling. But I ended up just not being ready to be on my own like that. My parents had not prepared me. So I did, but I always worked full time. I was always doing something. So I was a waitress for a couple of years and just thought, I can't keep doing this. I got to change something. I'm better than this. So at 22, I had actually walked into the Air Force office, and they were on a lunch break. Towards the airport, and the Marines spotted me, and I had already done university soccer. So I was like, it just worked. Yeah, and then I got the cool job, so it just worked. Yeah.
Amazing. Wow. It's such an unusual beginning, I think.
In Germany, I'm pretty unconventional. Yeah, it is a little bit more American, but it is pretty.
I mean, in Israel, we are forced to go to the army. So for us, it's kind of when you're hearing about voluntarily going into the army, it's always unusual.
But they bribe us. They give you free university because you can't pay for it by yourself. Yeah. They give you the health care, which we also can't pay for by yourself in America, So it's also a little bit of propaganda, 100%.
I mean, you need an incentive more than, hey, it might gonna change your life. Well, how?
You know we're going to be everywhere, you know?
Yeah, no, but I actually know more of those stories of, they wanted to go to the university, and that was like almost the only way there, because the parents didn't save money or something like that. So that is more of what I thought initially. But I think it's also an interesting perspective of saying, hey, I wanted to change my life, and I wasn't ready to go buy it by myself. So that's another idea, and I think it's super interesting. And so you then got married, or during your
I got married to a Marine. Yeah,
a Marine.
He had actually deployed to Afghanistan. So we kind of got married pretty quickly after he got back. You know, a lot of people do that in the military. Yeah. And when you get married, you get some extra money too
from the army. Yeah.
Off base by yourself. So people kind of rush the marriages a little, you know.
Okay.
But he was a great guy. Oh my goodness, he was fantastic. But you know, just once you get out of the Marine Corps, you're just so indoctrinated in it all that once you get out, you're really trying to find yourself again. And we most of us come in as pretty young kids. You know, when you think about being a freshman in university, that's when we're joining the military. So you get out kind of having to start over. And I got lucky with Intel because it did have office experience. But there's a lot of these guys with just the guns where they get out and they have nothing in the real world, you know? So yeah, I got lucky. Yeah. So
seems like a spark of luck is in any expat. Every expat have a spark of luck, otherwise they won't survive. But right. So I really love what you mentioned about, like, I was just I'm going back to your story saying you were in California, also like moved out from Texas, and just hearing German, and all of a sudden, interesting. How about we go and talk to them? Which is, I find really, really cool, because a lot of people are like actually looking at it from a different perspective of, oh my God, foreigners, or oh my God, they're not speaking my language. What are they doing here? But you said, like, this is the completely opposite of what I think. And I actually really like meeting new people, and just started talking to them. Tell me about this.
Yeah, but for the most part, America is so big, it's hard to judge always the stereotype. You know, so it really is half and half in America. And the other half that are really kind of nasty are kind of the ones who are there living every day that supposedly are taking people's jobs, you know, but tourists usually have zero problems. Everyone's usually very interested just to learn things, especially if they're just nice and polite as well, the foreigners. So it's actually, Americans, we're very just open. We don't have a lot of this, you know, scaredness. We're always going to go talk to someone or make an extra joke or, you know, have a conversation in the line, especially in Texas or in the South, you know.
Were they surprised that you approached them and started talking to them?
No, because they were just a rambunctious group of guys too. There were 4 or 5 guys, and that was what drew me to them too, because they were just fun and loud, because I'm the same. So no, they didn't find it surprising. They let me fit right in. They were doing the square dance with me. Yeah, it was great. Yeah, and luckily, you know, Germans are good with traveling. Maybe they don't always move away from Germany, but they are good at getting out and seeing different places. And their English is always good enough, you know. So
yeah, I agree.
And they also want to just meet real Americans as well, you know. So yeah, it turned out great. And I showed them Waffle House the next morning, and I had never been to Europe, so I'm apologizing for Waffle House because it's kind of run down, there's flies and stuff, and I'm like, oh my God, but I've never been to Europe. So now I'm like, I should never apologize because Europe is definitely a little uglier than America, yeah. Just older and uglier, you know. And we tear things down and build it up instead of saving things, you know. But Waffle House, you got to show them. I hung over breakfast. We got to go to Waffle House, yeah.
So you're saying this is the American thing you want to show people, like go to Waffle House if you want to see what true America is.
Yeah, a hangover breakfast. Oh yeah. You might even prison fight or some kind of fight. There's all kinds of things you might see in Waffle House. It's like being in the Bahnhof. Yeah.
Meine Güte.
It's open 24/7. Yeah.
All right. So I need to understand the situation. So you met Tobias, and you started talking after he got back to Germany, I guess, as well. And eventually, how did you get to this point where you are packing everything up and coming to Germany?
Well, right before I was leaving Texas, he was really there for me through a lot because he had kind of gotten divorced as well about the same time. And I think we were both the first kind of relationship. Plus, it was just kind of cool and exciting, all this texting and stuff, and it was cute. So it just kept happening, and I was kind of like a little bit dating around because we hadn't really started talking seriously yet, but it just kept going. And I had made my own decision. I had moved in with my Marine Corps sister from Okinawa in California, so I was already kind of stable with her. But what I didn't realize is she's still in the Marine Corps, and she's an officer now. And I was in California to smoke lots of marijuana, and so I ended up having to be back in the Marine Corps culture with her a little bit, and it was just too much for me. So after, I love her to death, but some people, you have different lives. No, but I love her to death. And my cat Marvin, she had two boy cats, and so they didn't get along either, so it just didn't work out. So once that was like not going so great, my job was okay, but I wasn't happy still. Southern California was expensive. And then the first thing was really just this 2-week vacation. And then it worked out so well. Like I had a lot of fun with the ex-boyfriend, but he's just a little bit older. And for tangible things, he was so supportive, with the visas and helping me, when I needed a new apartment. He was so supportive. But emotionally, for a German, his life was pretty straightforward. So he wasn't able to give me a lot of the emotional support that I needed, or to even have much of a huge worldview to support an American woman from the Marine Corps who did all these things, He was also loud and crazy in Europe and emotional, I think it was just too much for him too, yeah.
So you think that your personality was matching like his trip, but when it's an ongoing, when you move to Germany, it's a bit different.
I guess I meant after about a year.
After a year.
After a year, and when the pandemic hit. And then we were stuck in like quarantine together, and that's when it was coming out. Yeah. So it worked for a year. We had a lot of fun. It worked, but we both kind of came into it. Hey, this is the rebound. We were a little bit honest with that too. And let's not put anything too serious on it. And yeah, here we are.
Wow. That's great. It sounds very direct, like very, very what the German stereotype is actually.
Yeah, it is. And the stereotypes are there for a reason. Yeah. They do hold some truth to them. Yeah.
True that. So you're coming actually to a vacation in the Weihnachtsmarkt, which is the Christmas market, which is a very famous thing, especially in Germany, all over Germany. There are many, many amazing Christmas markets. But mind you, you also mentioned it yourself. You come from Texas, you were in California, and then you come to a German winter. How do you survive?
Well, luckily I was a little crazy in love, but really, I was not prepared at all for it. I was prepared for maybe Virginia weather, and I had never really realized how far north Germany was. In all of Europe, I had no idea it was really so much further north. So it was a shock. I had brought kind of enough stuff, but I really needed to have brought some extra leggings to wear underneath my pants. I should have brought some more. I should have bought a much better jacket. But, the boyfriend had bought me some wonderful scarves and some nice gloves, matching gloves. So for that, it was okay. And then the Weihnachtsmarkt was so beautiful. And I still had never experienced this huge wonderland Christmas. So it was just magical for that. Yeah. And we ended up, he has a family house down in the Eifel that had a wood burning fire. So we hung out in the Eifel a night or two, it just, it was good, yeah. It was okay, the winter, it's manageable, yeah.
And which year are we talking about now?
So I'm just coming here to visit. This is Christmas 2018.
And did you stay or did you go back and then did?
I went back for like 3 weeks or something. I went back for a month and then moved over here in February 2019. Yeah.
Wow. And so you mentioned that he had friends that you in the beginning they were good with you and you managed to I don't know, have a good time with them, but then it didn't work out. So could you elaborate on that a little bit more?
Right. It's a combination of things. For one, some people just have different personalities. That's all. You know, some people don't fit the best in the group. Well, that's it. That's little things like that always are the first foundation. But I think the next foundation was how difficult learning German was for me and how much I did not anticipate that I couldn't use English more, you know, or that people didn't like to talk English. So I think that was our first barrier.
So with each other, they would speak German when you were there?
Yeah, but they really tried. They really did try. You know, for the first year, they really gave me 6 months to a year. They really gave me some time to adjust and then to feel me out with how much effort I was going to put in. You know, everyone's always a little bit testing. So no, it was fine the first 6 months to a year. They gave me some time. But once the job searching wasn't going so good, and that was great business experience. And then I also was just tired from my 20s and the divorce. And I'm in Europe with passive income. So I'm also being a little lazier than I normally would have been in America by myself. Not maybe not lazier, but just relaxing more. So I think it came across not the best way. And then everyone doesn't quite understand how hard it is to find jobs here, and how hard it is to learn German. So yeah, it just kind of just drifting apart. And they were also a little bit older. This boyfriend was about 17 years older than me. And so was the friends. Even though they were cool and fun, there was a pretty big age difference as well. Yeah, so it just kind of drifted apart. And then once we broke up, you know, they've known each other since high school. That's how Germans are. You know, they have their friends for 30, 40, 50 years. So of course I wasn't the one that they were going to take this side on. But I ended up being really good friends with his niece. We went to Spain together. So good things came out of it, and we drifted apart a little bit, just on personality again. Because then, as an Auslander, sometimes you have friends because they can speak English, and you love them to death. You love them as your expat friends, but they're not always the person you would choose as your really good friend. But no hate to anybody. We all understand it. But.
Good. So basically, you are here your first year. Tell me how it's been for you, especially when you're saying, hey, German was not my forte and I needed to find some friends and to feel more integrated. And maybe with the German friends, it didn't go so well. How did it go for you experiencing it all as, you know, being somebody's spouse rather than you're on your own kind of doing your own thing?
That was really difficult for me. Yeah, because I felt so dependent on him. And even when I could have a little bit more independence, it was so intimidating that I just didn't want to do anything without him. And yeah, and that really, once we broke up too, it was really hard. I knew we needed to break up, but it was really hard for me to let go because it was this fear of, what am I going to do now by myself? Now I have to translate everything. Now I have to somehow remember how to do everything. But in German, you know, I had a general idea in America, and so I did my best to compare the two lives. But you can't always do that. And ARD and the radio show keeps sending me the damn bills, you know. They just keep adding up, and I'm not even watching the TV. But you just have to sit down and grind through it. And luckily it is 2024. We have all this Google Translate. So you just have to get on the computer. You just have to do research. You just have to start getting to it, making the phone calls, praying and hoping that they're going to speak a little bit of English. You know, that's all you can do. So what was great was me finding some other American friends, you know, because I started joining some of the expat group meetups, different ones. And I met some great American girls, and they helped me with my part-time job. I'm still friends with most of them. Another one to help me with 2 separate jobs now. Yeah. And so that was great. That's what gave me the confidence. That's what gave me realizing other people were going through things too. And they were even a lot younger than me. And they had come over here as au pairs at 18, 19 years old. And I thought that was crazy too, because that's pretty young to be moving to Europe. So yeah, it just developed from there. In the pandemic, but I needed a full-time job. So a lot of us got tired of that part-time after-school program because they just could never provide full-time. They just could not. It was after school knocked out, but knock Hilfe, right? So I got the full-time job at a Kita, and in the beginning it was super. Kita was a lot of fun. I was happy not to be working in an office with German adults. I was happy to be with the kids instead, so that I could get some of my happiness and goofiness out. Now I'm happy with the Germans. Now I'm ready. Back then I was not.
Yeah, you mentioned when you spoke before, you told me German kids are better than adults.
Right, yeah. Back then, when you're really trying to learn to be here, yeah, the kids are easier to deal with. Yeah. And they make you feel good, and they do applaud your German when you do get it right, and the Germans just minimize it,
Yeah, I remember when we started learning German, we always tried to see if we can compare ourselves to children, but then we would listen to them speak on the trams, and we were like, no, we're not even in like a 2-year-old level yet. So
God, every day I was ashamed every single day.
And did it help you learn when you were working with them?
It did not, because my job really was to speak the English, and I took that seriously. I really did, because I took it seriously because it is the one job that no German can give to their kids in Germany. I don't care how low of a job anybody thinks it is a special job.
Actually, in Germany, there are still so many vacancies for teachers and kindergarten teachers. So it's definitely been considered as something that is unique to find and hard to find.
But I did not have an Ausbildung. See, because Germany's problem, I think, is these Ausbildungs.
Yeah, just for our viewers. Yeah, just for our viewers, Ausbildung is basically the qualification or the studies that you have to do in order to be able to teach.
I think that's the biggest problem because, expats, foreigners, immigrants, refugees, anybody who comes here, first you have to spend 2-3 terrible years just learning German. And then most of our qualifications don't even count anymore. Or they want us to completely translate it to their German version. And you're just like, but it's America. Come on. Give me a break. I know we're a little bit crazy, but come on. Give some people a break sometimes, Germans, So I think that's also what makes Germany very difficult. And I also think this is one of their biggest problems is I love that they're welcoming all these people. Not a lot of, Netherlands isn't doing it next door. A lot of countries aren't doing it. But we're not providing people an easy way to immigrate here and to acclimatize. Right. And integrate. That's the word, integrate. Yeah. So, and that's been my problem as well. And I don't want to, I want to stay unconventional. I don't want to lose myself. But it's not the Germans' favorite thing, and I keep seeing in all these German learning books that they're constantly talking about the bus driver jobs to the immigrants, to the German learners. They're constantly talking about how people are engineers in their home country and they come here and they have to do a bus driver Ausbildung, and you're just like, is nobody else seeing this? It's just, I don't know. But I think it's everyone has a problem right now with everything. Every country, everyone.
Yeah, the job market is becoming harder and harder every day.
So many people need help and they need to be away from wars, but there's only so much space and money, and it's very difficult,
Yeah. Tell me, so you basically, after you broke up with your ex-boyfriend, you had this period that you were then maybe in a crossroad thinking, okay, do I want to come back, or do I want to stay, or what am I doing with myself? How did you handle this crossroad? Or maybe there was no crossroad and I'm imagining all of it.
Of course, absolutely. But it just wasn't so strong. I think everyone else gave me the crossroad, and I was like, I guess I could go back to America. But for me, it really was like, I just got here 2 years ago. I haven't seen everything yet. I haven't done what I want. And it was a fire to prove that I could do it on my own. And why else have a passive income if I can't live around in Europe and be a little low income for a little bit while I'm in Europe finding a job. The transition, but it was difficult. It was pretty depressing. But I did get to have, the Christmas back in America. So that helped right during that time. But yeah, being with friends and talking to people back home is what helps. I did still have the job, so having the job helps always be dedicated to something. And then just knowing it's for treat. It's only progress. And I kept saying to myself, I'm progressing. I had the part-time job, then I got a full-time job in Nikita, then I could afford a better apartment because my first apartment was in Zurt, way down south. And I wasn't so happy with those. But I made progress, I got the new job, could afford more, got a great apartment here in Nippes, and it was going great for a while with the job, with friends, with my attitudes. But the job got really exhausting after a while, yeah. And I stayed at the job for visa reasons. The Kita makes it easy with these mother speaker language visas. So I had to stay for 2 years to get my unlimited contract. So then I could have some sort of real temporary residence, ID for a couple of extra years. Yeah, so I stayed for 2.5 years. The Kita, the kids were great. We did lots of cool projects. It's all Montessori. I learned a lot. I thought that Montessori stuff was fantastic for kids. The kids really kept me going too. I was really happy to see their progress in English because I was there for 2.5 years. I saw a lot of progress and things that they were repeating because I would say it, and it was just the cutest thing in the world. But it was all low income, and these Kitas are supposed to be Ausbildung teachers, but everyone comes in as classroom assistants, so we're not getting paid what we should be. Our contracts are a little weird, They say we only have so many responsibilities, but day after day, we have so many other responsibilities in so many other areas that actually are like safety problems. I should not be going to the kitchen without a safety test. That's a German law and American law. We all know in the West. So things like that were happening all the time. And kids being unsupervised or kids being supervised by student teachers that weren't supposed to be alone with the kids. I'm not going to say what Kita, just everyone watch out. But then, so I finally got to the point, I can't do this anymore. I have integrity. I want to fix this. I really love everybody. I love this Kita. They've got a bunch of locations. So I started bringing up the problems and some solutions, showed them my CV, talked about some employees and where they should be, and lots of compliments. And then I said I also wanted to begin a Betriebsrat, which is like a works council where an employee kind of gets to represent the staff and bring issues to the higher ups, the bosses. And this is totally legal in Germany. So I said this, and the next day they fired me. And they fired me on the most intense reason, which is like violence and pure racism, where for safety reasons, they need to be out of that job the next day. So they never put a reason as to why. So I saw this, and of course I've been researching stuff in German my whole, and what I've been finding in Germany is America is so full of BS that I spent one night overthinking everything for the American system, and I had already won my case here in Germany, because the American system, you can come with so much just bullshit, you can really find the loopholes, you can change things around a little bit, but in Germany, it was black and white. I barely said 2 words. So I said to them, hey, there's no reasoning on this. I sent these emails with positive energy, and I'm not going to take this. I fought them in court and I won. I got my little bit of severance pay. Everything got backdated. And now I'm just arbitlos. And I never intended to be on the system. But once that happened, I said, okay, screw it. I'm going to take my time now, So now I'm just learning a lot of German. That's my main responsibility, and applying to a lot of different jobs, and fingers crossed, Daumen Doom. What is it?
Yeah, no, drücke die Daumen.
Drücke die Daumen. There you go.
For those who don't know, Arbeitslos is basically being without a job or unemployed. And this seems like it's a good opportunity for you to maybe do a little thinking or a bit of regrouping so that you can find something for your next adventure here in Germany. And for me, I'm wondering is there something you're missing, or is there something that you wish you would have in Germany that you don't have now?
There definitely are a few friends that I miss from America. That definitely goes back to high school. We weren't really always next to each other, but we were at least in the same country, So that's one big thing I miss. I miss the comfortability of just being American. I don't stand out. I don't have to stand out if I don't want to. Everything's easier. I know how to talk my way through things. I don't need to ask for help. So I really miss that. And sometimes I miss the conveniences of America, but they're very wasteful type of energy problem type of things. But I do miss that convenience sometimes, even though I know it's better for the environment here. It is. Sometimes it's a little annoying here.
So Germans got into your head already with like the eco-friendly and like recycling and all of that, and thinking about the environment, which did not happen in many other countries.
Especially as an American, any improvement for me is like, it's a huge improvement,
Absolutely. Wow. Yeah. I think you've been through so much, and I think your story is super interesting and super, I think, also inspiring, because you're saying, hey, there's so many things that happened and you just got through it. Because this whole thing with being fired, it's so easy to think, hey, I'm so small because I'm an expat, I don't know anything, I don't know the language, and it seems like this is what they were counting on a little bit, and you might just not fight. But you were like, fuck that, and I'm just fighting my way until I get what I was actually thinking about or needing, and you were not providing, actually. So I think it's inspiring, and it's great, and I think a lot of people need to learn that, hey, even if you're feeling like you're a bit lost or the language is not completely fully in your head yet, and honestly, I don't know when it will ever. So, but it does not mean that you are helpless. It does not mean that you cannot find support. And especially for those who have any problems with their jobs, it seems like many companies, so unfortunately, but I think it's all over the world, they try to see if they can succeed by doing things that they are not allowed to do because you are a foreigner and you might not even fight for it. So there are actually organizations around Germany that will help you for free with legal consultation and with any kind of other help that you could find so that you could fight for your rights.
Right. So the first thing I did before they even fired me is I knew that there were some issues, and I didn't want to bring up the problems until I had talked to someone legally. So who I used was fair-integration.de. So they're connected with the German government, and they are here strictly for workers' rights and Ausländer, foreigner rights. And they speak, at that minimum, they were speaking Arabic, English. Now Ukraine is on there. But you can always call. Of course, Turkish is going to be on there. But you can email them or phone them. They were the first people who really gave me some kind of like compassion of like, this is happening at Akita? Because I'm looking around at Akita and they've been doing it for 10 years. So nobody has any outside idea. Not everyone was experienced like I was too. A lot of them was their first jobs or their first time even out of their own country. And they're in Europe and their country's small, and that's unusual for me. So I was glad to take some of the brunt of it. And the whole time I kept saying, no, based on my integrity, I cannot let that happen. Or based on my integrity, I need to know more about this. And everyone just kept laughing at me or, saying, why are you being so difficult? And you just have to keep it going. If you know you're right, you just have to, and yeah.
I mean, if we were not difficult, the world would not have changed. So we need to be there so that people know that it's not right and it's not good for also the surrounding. Because if we continue to absorb everything as if we were a sponge, then nothing is going to change, ever. So I think it's
in Germany, especially because they love, even their own people, they love stamping people from the day they're born or the day they graduate from their 3 different high schools, whichever one. They love stamping people. And it is the craziest thing for me to see. You know, it's very difficult, yeah. And I love coming in as this loud American woman, really caring, and being an Ausländer myself now, a foreigner myself. You know, I'm very happy to be standing up to people and saying, no, you can't talk to us like that just because we don't speak German. Okay, you can't talk down to us. Because I can't remember how many times in my unemployment groups they would talk down to us. Like the problems with the system were somehow our responsibility. And every time I was like, look, you guys, it's not illegal for people not to like you. Okay, so you better make sure you do what you need to do. And I would advertise all the time with fair integration as well, because it's, and what's great about the German system is it is black and white. Once you do the paperwork and you know, you kind of looked at the law in general and the common sense tells you that you're the one being taken advantage of, the court's going to favor you. Now, is it really difficult to get to court? Is that intimidating as heck? Yes, it is. But once you get there, it is straightforward. Like I said, I barely said 2 words. Like it was already taken care of in my favor, you know.
So you're saying the German system is good for something, even though it's very convoluted and it's hard to read and it's so many papers and very tiny words. But it helps you to go through all those unpredictable circumstances that might occur.
So Germany bureaucracy is pretty close to the military. So.
Oh my God. I don't know if that's a good thing.
I've already been here, done that, yeah.
All right, Brittney, I think we got all the way to the end of the episode, unfortunately. I could sit here and speak with you for the next 5 hours, but I would want to ask you for this one tip for newcomers to Germany. What would that be?
Learn some German before you get here. Finish A1. Somewhere close to finishing A1, not Duolingo, an actual Sprachkurs, okay? Duolingo helps. Learn German.
Learn German. Here you have it. I agree with you completely. It can be a huge change for you to come here with at least having somewhat of an understanding of what is happening around you. And that will not happen with only English.
And the effort helps a lot too. Showing the effort, yeah. And I don't like to say it, but it's true. That you need the German. Yeah?
You need the German, for sure. Brittney, it was such a pleasure. Thank you so much for being here.
Well. That was a lot of fun.
Yeah, same. So I will say goodbye to our listeners, and I'll see you in the next episode.
We hope you enjoyed listening to this episode of Why Germany. If you want to learn more about relocation, make sure to visit overtheoffek.com, your relocation experts.